My name is Aileen Van Ginkel, and I work for the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada, and I also co-chair with Mr. Zul Kasamali the Canadian Interfaith Conversation. I've been fortunate to work for faith-based organizations my whole working career. Because of that, I have not had to experience the sometimes painful need to separate who I am as a Christian from who I am in the workplace. I've been able to try at least to integrate my faith with my work and all parts of my life.
What does it mean for you to actively and publicly live your faith in community with others in society?
I know that, especially when it comes to workplaces or public sectors, this kind of integrality is something that many people of faith are not able to enjoy, because the expectation is that they will park their faith at the door and not bring it into those places. But there's a danger in situations like mine, and that is that I can easily become insular in my thinking, secure in the belief that my ways of doing things are the best ways, and very comfortable with what amounts to groupthink. So I'm grateful to be working in the area of interchurch and interfaith dialogue on behalf of the Evangelical Fellowship. It's been a great way to counteract the danger of insularity without losing that wonderful sense of integrality.
How has your faith shaped and inspired your professional and public life?
My work with the Canadian Interfaith Conversation has confirmed that the differences between people from various religious traditions are very significant. We can't find ways to come together on the most basic tenets of our religions, and we're realizing that we don't need to. That's because, in a context of real and respectful listening, we recognize that despite those differences, we share a commitment to contribute to the welfare of all Canadians out of our different faith traditions. We can't do this without a serious commitment to deep dialogue, to deeply meaningful conversation. Sharing who we are and what compels us to live out our faith publicly enriches the contribution that we can make together as Canadian citizens who profess adherence to a particular religious tradition. It's actually because of our differences that we're able to offer multifaceted perspectives and solutions, albeit still partial, to issues of common concern, such as poverty, climate change, and community breakdown, as evidenced in the lack of adequate palliative care across this country.
In your experience, why is it important that expressions of religious faith be present in the public life of Canada?
One of the things that we talk about in the Canadian Interfaith Conversation is that our contributions to the common good are often overlooked or sidestepped by people who do not adhere to a particular religious tradition and claim to have no faith at all. Ironically, many of those that we might call secular in their outlook are subject to the same danger that those of us in isolated faith communities can suffer. They too can exhibit symptoms of insularity, superiority, and groupthink. Our hope, therefore, is that they would join us in discovering the richness of conversation about that which holds deep meaning in their lives with people who would express it differently. We believe that bridging that religious-secular divide through dialogue and discovery of true common ground would be helpful to us as well as them. Conversations that bridge the divides among us bring me great hope that the God I believe in is working all things for the good of all creation, so that any efforts towards healing and reconciliation that we are engaged in with others are evidences of God's love for us and all of the world around us.
How can your experience of living your faith in the public square offer inspiration to young Canadians seeking to do the same?
My prayer for my generation and all generations to come is that every one of us, whether we profess a particular faith or not, would be free to talk about our deepest motivations and hopes and fears, despite the real differences in our starting points. I'm hopeful that those in the generations behind mine will not be so uptight when it comes to talking about religion, but will instead be encouraged to live lives of integrality, not in island communities, but in places where different faith expressions, obvious or not, are welcomed and celebrated.